Welcome to the city. I am Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer of the City of San Angelo. And today's a very special episode. We're devoting the entire episode to board and commission service here in the City of San Angelo. And joining us is one of our board members for the Civic Events Board, Tim Condon. Tim, thanks for being with us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Now, first of all, tell us a little bit about yourself, just personally and professionally.
Well, I'm a classically French-trained chef, and I'm a business owner as well. I've been in business for about 4.5 years. Lone Star Cheeseburgers, the company that we have, and so my passion is really driven on food and service and anything related to that. So the entertainment experience, I guess you might add. So, that's pretty much what we do, and that's kind of why I serve on the board.
But you're not a native San Angeloan.
I'm not. I was a transplant about 4 or 5 years ago. The Goodfellow Air Force Base is what brought me here ultimately. So.
Now, you mentioned that you serve on the Civic Events Advisory Board, like the other 19 boards and commissions that serve at the pleasure of the City Council. They advise the City Council on different matters. Talk a bit about the mission of the Civic Events Advisory Board and how the board goes about accomplishing that mission.
Well, what we're tasked with doing is kind of overseeing the civic events division of the city. It relates to everything from the different facilities that we have, the convention center for one, Pecan Creek, the river stage, many of those different things, and anything related to those facilities, the maintenance and upkeep, the events that might go on there. And so that's really where my expertise comes in, is because I do caterings on those sites, and I'm also, going to be the first one in line to attend a concert. So, that's kind of what we do, is we kind of just oversee that department financially, operationally, and just kind of go from there and take the agenda items as they come and just kind of make the best decision.
As I mentioned, you serve as an advisory board to the City Council. Talk about maybe some of the things that you've recently advised the City Council on when it comes to civic events.
Well, right now our hotel occupancy tax is really high as far as the dollars that are coming in. So there's a lot of extra money out there, and we're trying to figure out ways to advise the City Council on how to spend that money. As far as the facilities go, the upkeep, maybe expanding the convention center, anything related to that. That's kind of where we're trying to focus our attention.
How long have you served on the Civic Events Board?
I've been on the board for about 2 years now, and it's been great. The experience has been awesome. Great way to network and get to know people. And not only that, it's a great way to give back to the community.
Now, how did you initially get involved with the Civic Events Board?
I saw that there was a vacancy, and it was, I kind of feel as a businessman and as somebody who has really been blessed by the community and at a professional level and a personal level. It's a great way to give back, and I just felt it was an obligation that I should probably apply and see where it went from there. So that's what I did. I filled out the application. It was very simple, and I was appointed by the mayor, Dwayne Morrison.
And you mentioned about the application. There's an option to do it online, or you can pick up a paper application. Talk a little bit about the application process. You mentioned it's easy. How easy is it?
I think it's one page, and you just go down the line and fill out the name and the date and any qualifications you might have. It was super easy, and it's as simple as that. Probably the easiest application that you'd ever fill out, even easier than a job application.
So when you first applied to be a board member and then following your appointment, was there anything specific that you were hoping or looking to accomplish on the Civic Events Advisory Board?
Well, I think that all of the members of the Civic Events Advisory Board, our mission is just to make San Angelo better, whether it be the events that we can draw, the conventions that we can draw. All of that kind of goes together with making San Angelo better. Sales tax dollars are driven every time that the convention center holds a convention, or anytime large groups of people from outside the area come. So it's something that we all just want to make sure that we put our best foot forward as a city in all of our facilities. And so that's really what drives what we want to do and accomplish.
For someone who has never served on a city board or commission, what is the time commitment involved, and how much energy do you have to devote to being a good Civic Events Board member?
Well, it's very minimal. We have meetings once a month, and they usually last an hour. And then there's also subcommittees and things like that where we can take some extra time. But it's very minimal, and it's just a great way to give back to the community. And not only that, just make some decisions that'll help the city and help any potential conventions or tourist-related activities come to town.
Now, you mentioned that Mayor Morrison is the council member who appointed you. How often do you talk to the mayor about matters that are before the Civic Events Advisory Board?
I don't necessarily talk to him very often about any particular issues on the Civic Events Advisory Board. We haven't really had any issues come our way where I needed to seek advice like that. But I do keep in contact with him, and I did talk to him yesterday.
Speaking of which, you've recently appeared before another one of our city boards, the Design and Historic Review Commission, with a request about a restaurant that you want to open that has generated a lot of attention and debate. What has that been like for you to appear before one of our city boards as a proponent?
It's been a humbling experience. There's a process put in place, and it's coming to these boards and going through the process and getting things approved and whatnot. So it's humbling, but it's also exciting. And, what it does is it just really helps any decisions that are made from a board level. It helps that decision to be proper and be right for the town. And even though we had to go 4 times in front of the board for one issue, it is what it is. It's the process, and it's a good process, and everything will be great.
As I mentioned, it has generated a lot of attention and a lot of discussion in the community. Has that caught you off guard at all?
It did catch me off guard. I wasn't expecting this cactus to be so controversial. But what it did do is put a little perspective into the matter that, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish as a business is just to really make an awesome restaurant and make an awesome business for downtown. So it's put perspective on what people's opinions are of it, and it's really, it's a good process to go through, and I'm glad that everything worked out perfectly.
Has it changed your perspective at all now, having stood on this side of the dais and this side of the podium presenting to a board? Has that in any way impacted sort of your perspective as a board member for when people come before you with requests or proposals?
Well, I've always been a pro-business person, and I always thought in that type of activity as being good. It's not really affected me in any way. I just think that everybody on all the boards just needs to understand that you're there to do what's best for the town and maybe not take into consideration your personal interests. So that's really where I've started learning a little bit more, is making sure that people on all the boards are doing what's best for San Angelo and best for the community.
So, for instance, have there been decisions that you have made as a board member that you may not have been wild about personally, but you thought it was for the betterment of the Civic Events Division and of the community?
Yeah, absolutely. You have to put your civic events hat on when you're up on the dais, and what you do is you put away all your personal feelings or all your personal opinions, and you really have to make decisions what's best for San Angelo, what's best for the community, and in the Civic Events Board, what's best for the individual properties. We've got all of our properties are being utilized widely. The convention center is booked every day. The Coliseum's used very heavily, and but there's also some venues that are not used so much, like the River Stage. And so what we're trying to do is utilize those facilities to make the Civic Events department more efficient by offering incentives to promoters or whoever it might be to come and utilize those facilities.
You mentioned now that you've served on the board for 2 years. When you reflect back on that, what do you think that you've gained both personally and professionally from your board service?
Well, personally, I've gained a lot of networking value. I get to meet a lot of people in San Angelo, who are near and dear to the community. And from a professional level, really what I've gained is just the understanding of how the city works, how the board system works, and really the nuts and bolts of what makes things happen in San Angelo. And it's a great process to be involved in. It's something that is just great for not only a resume, but also just a great way to understand the ins and outs of the decisions that are made down at City Hall or the convention center, wherever.
So, and in that way, does that make you feel maybe a little bit more connected to the community?
Completely. All the decisions that are made are really focused to try to, find what's the best solution to any problem or any issue that may arise. What's the best solution for San Angelo? And it completely makes you feel connected to the community because, that's what we're tasked to do. That's why we're appointed by City Council, is to really get in there and roll up the sleeves and do some hard work and some hard thinking and go through the thought process of what's really best for this town.
If you were to encourage someone to apply and serve on one of our boards and commissions, what might you say to that person in order to try to convince them it was a good thing to do?
I would say do it. It's an awesome opportunity. It's a great way to learn. It's a great way to understand the ins and outs of the city and the policies that are put in place. And not only that, it's fun. We get to experience a lot of different agenda items that come, on our agendas, and we get to look at and see exactly how things happen and the decision process that it takes to make the decisions that are ultimately going to affect every single member of the community.
Has your experience piqued your interest enough that you would consider serving on another board or commission?
Oh, most definitely. In fact, having a restaurant in downtown very soon opening, the Downtown and Historic Review Committee is something that I'm interested in the future. Downtown San Angelo has a special place in my heart, and I think there's nothing like downtown anywhere else in the world. Downtown San Angelo is unique, it's creative, and it's going to be awesome as more businesses come. So that's something that I'm really interested in. I just love to see San Angelo grow, downtown San Angelo be different, downtown San Angelo keep its historic value, but also bring new life. We're one of the fastest growing cities in the country, and there's going to be growth and there's going to be development downtown. So what a great opportunity to serve and be able to take downtown to the next level.
We've been talking with Tim Condon. He is one of the members of our Civic Events Advisory Board. And when we return, we'll be talking with another of our board and commission members. But first, we're going to spotlight a very interesting board member who serves as the chairman of our Public Art Commission, Alejandro Castañón.
When I paint, I want to inspire somebody and make them happy. Forget about problems for maybe a few seconds, and hopefully that's why people want to look at my art. My name is Alejandro Castañón. I'm the chairman of the Public Arts Commission, and I've been serving for close to about 2 years now. And one day I just picked up a paintbrush and just thought I'd give it a shot. I had no idea what I was doing. I have no formal instruction whatsoever. And somehow I just found something that was, maybe deeply seated from when I was a kid, and it just kind of picked right up where it left off, and it just went from there. And I've grown from every single painting I've done. One has been, in my opinion, better than the last, and that's what's helped me continue. It's very colorful, for one. If anybody's seen my artwork, it's very vibrant, very colorful, a bit abstract in some ways, a bit realistic. From some of my subjects, I do a lot of portraits of people, pop art, I guess that would fall into that category. Impressionistic is one way of describing it because it's not perfect, and so there is a sense of impressionism where it's, not all the details are showing through the painting, but people get the idea. So I would say that's probably how I would describe my artwork. There's two types of functions of Galler. One is a paint and sip session, which has been kind of growing in the United States over the last few years, where people come in and they bring drinks from home, and we show them how to paint a particular piece that night in 3 hours, and they take it home at the end of the night. That's one function. The other function is as a private art gallery, where we show art from local artists, national artists, international artists, and we do that on a regular basis, and we have shows maybe 2 to 3 times a year. The Public Arts Commission basically approves and looks at any type of art that's going to be on display on city property within city limits, in order to basically not necessarily circumnavigate, but it helps out the city council by making recommendations ahead of time, so the city council will already take us under our approval to approve these projects. We want to make sure that it's appropriate, obviously, that we don't try to tell the artist that it has to be this way or that way, but we want to make sure that it's appropriate for the public. And not necessarily that it has to fit in with city or downtown themes, but we do want to make sure that it's going to catch the eye appropriately. We want to make sure that it's secure, that it's safe for, for instance, if it's going to be a sculpture, that no children are going to be climbing on it or hurting themselves, whether or not there's going to be any type of maintenance on the piece. Those are types of things that we look for whenever somebody comes to us with an idea to set something up on city property. It's important to get to know your community. That's one of the reasons that I wanted to serve as soon as I got to San Angelo, because in the Air Force, although there's a community within itself, you move around so much, you don't get to know the area around you very well. So when I came here, I really wanted to put my best foot forward and get to know what the city was about, what issues there are, and particularly which ones where I could actually help. I don't know if I would do really well on the river corridor, but I knew on the city art council, I could make a difference. And I think if you have the opportunity and the skills to get involved and make a difference in the community, you should jump at the chance. If anything, just to show people that are a lot younger that they should be doing the same thing. They should strive for that when they get to a point where they can serve.
Welcome back to the city. We are now joined by Ashley Young Turner. She is the chairwoman of our Design and Historic Review Commission. She's here to talk about her board service. Ashley, thanks for being with us.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
First, talk a little bit about yourself personally and professionally. Just give our viewers a little background into who you are.
Sure. Well, I was born in San Angelo and moved around most of my life. My family's been in restaurants all that time. We've owned restaurants in various areas, Dallas and then back here in West Texas. We came back and started focusing our businesses out here about 3.5 years ago. So it's been an exciting transition to get to come back to San Angelo, where my family was from. That's kind of how I got here. Now, in school, I had studied classical studies, so I spent a lot of time with archaeology and art and ancient religions and political structures, all of that. So lots of time in Greek and Latin books and translations and all of that. So.
Now, as I mentioned, you serve as the chairwoman of our Design and Historic Review Commission. For people who aren't familiar with that body, talk a little bit about what the commission's mission is and how you go about accomplishing that.
Sure. There are a couple of things that are kind of our guidelines and directives. We deal a lot with the area surrounding the river corridor and the development of it, as well as any historically designated buildings or historical areas downtown. So that includes at the historical downtown, and as I say, anything along the river corridor. And what its goals are to just make sure that the way that those areas are developed are cohesive and make sense, so that you have kind of a natural flow with the development of your city, and that it protects those areas and protects some of those historical buildings and that river that's so important to us and really could be developed in such a way that it draws people to it.
So in other words, the city recognizes that as sort of a special area compared to some other places in town where people have a little bit freer reign to do what they want to with their development.
Absolutely. To that end, we have a couple of things. Like I say, there's the River Corridor Master Development Plan that we work off of. There are several different sign ordinances and a historical preservation guideline. We have a lot of material that applies to how that area is protected.
So are those guidelines and regulations generally aesthetic in nature?
Yes, very many of them are. Yeah, very many of them are. Now, there are things that go through even dimensions of buildings and dimensions of redevelopment. So, for example, if you were going to add a second floor to a first floor building, how that affects your neighbors and how would that continue to flow within the city block and your surroundings. But it does cover things like colors, it covers dimensions, it covers signage, a lot of different things.
How long have you served on the commission, and how long have you served as its chairwoman?
I've been on the commission a little bit over a year. I was appointed in September of last year, and I was made the chairperson in January.
And how did you get involved with the commission initially? What motivated you to want to serve on the commission?
Yeah, well, before I kind of got drawn back into the family business that's restaurants, my husband and I both were headed toward academia for these things, dealing with a lot of the history and, those were just our areas of study. So being in San Angelo, I was naturally drawn to some of those things that we have here, some of those resources and those, I think that they're things that make our city really unique and cool, the historical elements that we have here. So I was naturally interested in it and had a couple of folks kind of mention to me that these boards and commissions existed. And then I was approached by Johnny Silvas to actually get on board and take a look at doing this.
For someone who has never served on a city board or commitment or commission, what is the time commitment that's involved, and how much energy do you have to devote to the commission's business?
Sure. Well, every case that you're hearing, everything that comes before the commission has paperwork that goes with it. The city planning staff does a pretty good job of trying to isolate the areas of our guidelines where that may apply or that we should consider against any particular case. So there's a lot of material to go through that way. We also try to, we ask that everybody get out and kind of take a look, go in your free time and take a look at where the area that you're talking about to make sure that you're familiar with what you're going to be seeing. And likewise, I've spent quite a bit of time with all of those guidelines and rule books, if you will, so that I have a thorough understanding of what we're really looking at. So there's a little bit of time. Frankly, the commission could be doing more. There's more that's under its purview that it's not really actively working at right now that would take a little bit more time. That said, it's not like a full-time job. It's not even a 25-hour-a-week job. It's something where you can really have a life and have other things going on and still be a part of and contribute to.
You mentioned that Councilman Silvas is the council member who appointed you to the commission. Mm-hmm. How often do you speak to him about commission business, or maybe even any other city council members?
Well, I visit, try to stay involved in general. I kind of like to, be a part of the things that are going on in San Angelo because it matters to me. And I think this is a great town and we have a lot of cool things going on. So I like to stay involved. For that reason, I would say that I visit with council members pretty frequently. Mr. Silvas and I recently even more have been in contact pretty frequently. Mm-hmm. So.
You recently have had a case before the DHRC that has generated quite a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. What has that been like for the commission and for you, and did it surprise you at all?
Oh, yes, it did. It did. It was an outlier, I would say, in terms of the attention that it drew, and also, a lot of the strong feelings that it drew. We haven't really seen something like that before. Certainly not since I've been on the commission, and even talking with other commissioners, it hadn't really come up for them in their time and tenure on the commission. So it was surprising. And to be perfectly frank, it was difficult. It was very difficult. It was a huge learning experience, I will say. It was the first time that I had some of these things happen and had kind of the press so involved in your life and the decisions that you're trying to make. And kind of tangling those two. So it was very definitely a learning experience. I know that, council members deal with that kind of thing pretty frequently. They get kind of well versed in not making everyone happy. But for me, it was certainly a learning experience and a difficult one at times.
If someone saw that and it sort of made them a little uneasy about potentially serving on a board or commission, what would you say to that person about the value of that sort of service?
Well, the truth is to me that, these things, I wouldn't be on the commission if I didn't care very deeply about, our subject matter and the things that we're looking at. And historical preservation and our downtown are going to be fantastic places to be and live around. For that reason, it's extremely important that we do take care of them and that we do have people trying to do right by them. The truth of it is we're looking at buildings that someone else made years ago, that somebody else put up or built, and we're going to pass those on. You know, my kids are going to see these same structures, hopefully, if we've done our job and taken care of them. And it should contribute to the way that San Angelo does redevelop and grow. You know, it's just, to me, it can't be overstressed how important it is to be good stewards and good caretakers of our city. So,
what do you think that you've gained personally and professionally from the experience of serving on a city board?
So much. You know, it's nice for me when my professional life is kind of involved in another area of things that I care very deeply about, to have that fulfillment where I do still kind of have a connection back to the things that I'd studied in school, and you know, again, another part of my life that I really cared a lot about. So it's been nice to stay involved in that way, and I think that it's helped me be kind of fulfilled and more well-rounded in a way that I would, you know, like to be in my life in general.
You were recently honored by the Standard Times as one of its 20 under 40 young leaders in our community. What did that honor mean to you?
It meant a lot. It meant a lot. It really, really did. You know, I know the progress that we've made in the time that we've been here, but for somebody else to kind of see that, you know, and notice the things that we're doing was amazing. I think that it was a huge honor for this. I know what goes into planning an event, say, and so for the Standard Times to have put all of that together was truly humbling. In addition, I think I've said before, but it makes me feel like I have a whole lot more to do, and I'm not even close to there yet. You know, we're just wanting to be as active and involved and engaged as possible, and I think that's true for a lot of people in my life. We have a lot of energy, and there's a lot of energy around me, and I feed off of that and grow from it and love it. It's beautiful. So I was truly honored.
If you were going to make a pitch to someone about applying to serve on a city board or commission, what would you say to that person?
You have a chance here in local government and in your town and the place where you live to actually see yourself make a difference, your voice heard. It's something where I feel like there's a lot of disenfranchisement with national politics, and there's a lot of ways in which people feel like they don't get heard and they don't have a voice in things. But at a local level, you really, really do. And one of the ways that you can profoundly affect your community and your life is by being a part and being on these city boards and commissions, getting involved in council. You know, not any one of us, not any one of them are here to do a job just for them. They're supposed to speak for you too. The best way, the absolute best way to get involved is by standing up and making yourself known and sharing what you believe about the city. Getting involved and being on these boards is a big part of that. It's an easy way for you to actually make a difference in your community.
We've been talking with Ashley Young Turner. She is the chairwoman of the Design and Historic Review Commission, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.